I really do. 3 years later, feel very reflective. It was one of those things as I was peeling back my personal layers that no longer served me. And I think that that's the best way that I can describe it. It just no longer served me. And I was ready to let it go. And you have to be ready to let it go. It's just like anything. You have to be ready. You have to want it more than anything else. And you need support. Alrighty, it is time to stop hitting snooze and awaken to a life worth being, the fun and inspiring podcast that dives deep into what makes life truly fulfilling. I'm your host, Sue Willoughby, a self-proclaimed badass transformational life coach for women over 40. Join me as I explore the extraordinary journeys of ordinary people who've transformed their lives from the inside out. Tune in weekly to uncover the secrets to smashing through your perceived limits and creating a life that's not just well lived, but totally worth being. Welcome to a special episode of A Life Worth Being. I just wanted to say, I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving. And today is a special day for me. It is November 30th. And 3 years ago today, I decided to change my relationship with alcohol. And I have not had any alcohol since that day, which was really a big deal for me. So I felt that it was appropriate that I come on and share my adventure with you, especially on the heels of Nancy's episode that we released on Tuesday. So it's interesting because I think that there are a lot of women out there that are questioning their relationship with alcohol. As we age, our bodies process alcohol differently, and it may just be something that you've been thinking about for a long time, like I was. So I actually still have my journal here that I started on the 29th. That was pre-day. I started out doing or planning to do dry December. Now, that's not exactly the time of year that most people decide to stop drinking or to take a break from alcohol. Not in December because it's too difficult, right? But I did. I was like, what? Why not? Go for broke. A lot of people wait until, dry January or February because there's less days in that month. And you think, well, I can do 28 days, right? Or 29 in leap year. It was something that I had been thinking about for a long time. Now, when I say a long time, alcohol was always a part of my life. If you have been listening to this podcast for any length of time or have caught me on some of my guest appearances on other people's shows, you know how I grew up. I grew up with an alcoholic parent. And so alcohol was very prevalent in my life and not always the pretty side of it. I mean, if there is a pretty side of it. At the time in our mind, sometimes it seems okay until later. So yeah, I grew up around alcohol. I started drinking at a very young age because it was available. And I can remember going ice skating and having someone buy us beer to hide in the snowbanks. And we were like 10. So, it's always been there. And as I struggled with coming out and just not feeling like I fit in anywhere prior to coming out, alcohol was kind of there for me. It made me feel cooler. It made me cooler because I could get it. When I was like 13, I had a fake ID, probably even before that. And I hung out with older people, older kids, older, young adults, like 18-year-olds. So I could pass for older, but the bottom line is I had alcohol in my life for a very long time. And did it affect me? Yes, it did. Did I know that I had a not great relationship with it? Yes, I did, but I didn't do anything about it for many years. So in order to stop drinking on my own without the support of, let's say, Alcoholics Anonymous, AA is very popular for many people, and it's very helpful for many people, but it wasn't my jam. I started thinking about and inquiring about and also looking for alternate types of alcohol counseling or other methods. There's somebody who out there who does meditation and I tried that and that didn't really help. But I think what really worked for me, and like I said, this is just for me, is that I had done a lot of personal work myself before I decided to quit drinking. And systematically, if you peel back the layers, every layer that you pull back exposes something new, and then you have to deal with that. And so I did that for several years, not with the end goal that I would stop drinking, but more for personal growth and personal development. And it was very helpful when I finally did make that decision to change my relationship with alcohol, that I won't say it made it easier, but it made me more aware of the things that were coming up for me, when I would drink, why I would drink, and what I needed to do in order to not drink. So that's sort of in a nutshell the journey and the process that I personally went through. Now, I think also for women of a certain age or women in general, and just people in general, there's a huge stigma around not drinking. It's changing a great deal, but it is, if you quit smoking, people are like, yeah, good for you. You quit smoking. That's awesome. And then you quit drinking and people say, oh my God, did you have a problem? What was wrong? I didn't even realize. Like, do you know me? But you can pick up on these things. And I think, in order to stop drinking, yeah, you have to admit that you do have a less than stellar relationship with alcohol to begin with. And there's no shame in that, honestly. And, there just isn't. And I think that so many people hide that, and it's understandable because in order to stop drinking, then you have to tell people that you're not drinking. So if you go out to dinner, you don't order a cocktail, right? I mean, our whole culture is built around cocktails. Let's go for a drink. Hey, you want to meet for a drink? Hey, how about a drink after work? So there's a lot of that social stigma attached to saying, sure, I'd love to meet with you. I don't drink, but I'm happy to get a non-alcoholic beer or, something else. Fortunately, there's a lot of delicious alternatives these days. But I think that also adds to some people not stopping or not changing their relationship with alcohol, is because there is that stigma attached to, people just look at you differently. And the people that look at you differently and that are going to fall away because you're not drinking, then do you really need them in your life? And I know that that's a tough question that some people will have a hard time answering. So how did I do it? Well, let's see. I told you I did a lot of personal work before I decided to stop drinking. And then I said, okay, I'm going to try dry December, which I was like, I knew that I was not going to a lot of holiday parties or any holiday parties. And I had the ability to be with myself, which I think sometimes that's a little bit more challenging than being with other people. But I started a journal and I nicknamed it the NNSJ, the Nowhere Near Sober Journal. So the first few days and for, a year or so afterwards, I wrote down what was on my mind. And this was also kind of a springboard into, or in addition to my other daily journaling that I was doing. So I would write down what I was feeling when I was thinking about alcohol. And it was interesting how quickly, by noting those things and acknowledging them, that my craving or my habitual routine around drinking dissipated. So about halfway through December, I realized, okay, wow, not that it was easier than I thought, but it was less intrusive than I thought it was going to be. And it was also interesting how I didn't shy away from being around people who were drinking. I know that that is very difficult for many people when they put alcohol on the sideline, but I didn't. I went out to lunch with a friend and I said, "Hey, I'm not drinking." And they're like, "Oh, are you okay?" I'm like, "Yes, yeah, I'm fine." And they had a couple of beers, and beer was kind of my, one of my one of my mainstays, and I felt okay about it. Over time, those feelings of feeling good, waking up without a hangover, um, not feeling like my life revolved around drinking, and where we were going to go for dinner, and what kind of alcohol they served, things like that. And it's really interesting when you start putting together those little pieces, like how you act at a dinner party, what causes you to say, I need a drink, right? All these things that if you start to keep tabs on them and be curious around it, you start to build an awareness of where this dependency is coming from. Now, I understand that it goes a lot deeper for a lot of people. And I won't say it wasn't deep for me because, like I said, I grew up with an alcoholic and I knew what it looked like. And it affected my relationship with my parent, with my mom. And to the point where I didn't talk to her for 2 years at one point. And it's kind of like the pot calling the kettle black, right? Where I was drinking probably just as much as she was, but I couldn't see it. I couldn't look at it in her because it was a reflection. But the difference is that was her journey and that was her stuff. I had my own relationship with alcohol and my own shit that I was dealing with. So I had to come to terms with myself and not anybody else's stuff. I hope that that is resonating with someone out there. The bottom line is that if you are questioning your relationship with alcohol, and if you find yourself thinking about it, like before you go to a party, you're thinking about, oh, I should probably not drink as much, or, whatever. If you're questioning, if you're curious, if you're thinking about, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. There's so many of these little things that we say and we do, and it's interesting. So I think just being aware of what your behaviors are around alcohol, if it's something that you're questioning. If it's not, then that's fine too. I know some people that just want to be able to, maybe they don't want to quit completely. That's great. That's great. And then there's some people that are like, I need to quit completely because if I have one, I'm going to have 10. I was kind of one of those, I didn't have an off switch kind of people. I really do. 3 years later, feel very reflective. It was one of those things as I was peeling back my personal layers that no longer served me. And I think that that's the best way that I can describe it. It just no longer served me. And I was ready to let it go. And you have to be ready to let it go. It's just like anything. You have to be ready. You have to want it more than anything else. And you need support. Now, like I said, I did this on my own. Not everyone can. And I understand that. So if you are in a position where you feel like you're curious or you are thinking about alcohol more than you think you need to, I'm happy to have a conversation with you and help you sort out some of these things. There's a lot of resources out there. I suggest that if this is something that you're interested in, that you seek out the resources that resonate with you. There are a lot of different types of communities out there, whether it be AA, whether it be other types of organizations. I know She Recovers is one, Zero Proof is another, and I can put those in the show notes. But have a conversation with someone, right? I'm serious. Book a call. We can chat and see how you're feeling, because it's not an easy journey. And if it's something that you're considering, I want you to be successful. I want you to feel good about your life. Awaken a life worth being didn't come from nowhere, right? I've had to work really hard to get where I am, just in general, from a personal standpoint. And like I said, alcohol was one of the last things. By no means am I perfect. I still have plenty of work to do, and I love it. I embrace it. I embrace the work. It's not always easy, but I do love it. So I'm here for you as a resource. I hope that this message resonates with someone, and be safe. I'm grateful for you, and thank you so much for tuning in weekly. And share this episode with a friend if there's someone out there that you feel is struggling. So thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for listening. And I just wanted to share this with you. So I will see you next week. Thank you for listening to today's episode of A Life Worth Being. I hope you found it fun and inspiring. And to avoid a bad case of FOMO, please be sure to click that subscribe button. If you love what you heard today, please share it with a friend, and then hop on over to your favorite podcast platform and return the love with a wonderful review and 5-star rating. It would truly mean the world to me. Be sure to follow me on Instagram and on my website, links below in the show notes. I appreciate you, and I will see you next week for more fresh insights on awakening a life worth being.